absolutely you should be using these new technologies. It gives you an edge. Anything that gives you an edge over everything else, that's a good thing. Like, you should not
Yeah.
be like, this is cheating if I'm using ChatGPT. No, it's not. That's like saying like 20 years ago, you're like, oh, I can't Google stuff because that's cheating. Like, who's not Googling stuff now, right? Working for a large company, it's consistent but not safe. You get the idea of feeling like you're safe because you always get the same paycheck every month, but you don't even know when you're going to suddenly get fired and then have the rug pulled under your feet. Actual thing was like, what's the ultimate question? So it's like, you can know the ultimate answer, but the whole
Yeah.
thing is like, you have to be asking the right question to get the right answer. So I think prompt engineering, understanding these like abstractions and stuff, that's going to be what really sets people apart, because you're asking the right questions. After you know what the right question is, AI tools will tell you what the right answer is.
This is an interview with Tina Huang. Tina has a YouTube channel of now over 600,000 subscribers in the AI space, where she shares all her tips on better leveraging AI tools for both productivity, but also for finding freelancing work. Speaking of freelancing, she built a platform called Lonely Octopus, where she teaches artificial intelligence by working on real projects from companies and learning through practice. In this discussion, we dive into the education space, but also artificial intelligence and how to better leverage ChatGPT and other tools for getting into the field and boost productivity. We also talk about YouTube, freelancing, building an audience, and more. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to leave a like and a 5-star review depending where you are listening. This helps my work a lot. This is Louis-François Bouchard from the What's AI podcast, and let's get right into it. How did you get into AI and into YouTube, and which one came first, and why did you start both?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, in terms of YouTube, well, I was trained as a computer science. So, worked as an engineer for a bit, and I also worked as a data scientist. As you and I both know, a lot of like these technical roles are pretty interchangeable, right? Like between data science, like AI engineer, or like software engineer. A lot of these, like, people kind of go like back and forth in a lot of them. Skill
Mm.
sets are pretty interchangeable too. So YouTube definitely came first. In the beginning, I focused on data stuff a lot of time because I was working as a data scientist at that time. Although I also talked about computer science and software engineering. With the advent of AI, I started talking about how to use AI, which again, it's honestly very similar to software engineering because we're not trying to develop our own models in this case. Usually we're just using the models that are there, like fine tuning it, maybe something like that. So there's so many opportunities available in AI right now. So I started incorporating those topics into my YouTube channel and my other forms of social media as well.
Was your ultimate goal to become an expert in your field, or more to focus on YouTube and to find like content to share and be useful on YouTube? What's the main goal, or your main like mission?
hmm Well, and from the very beginning, I did not think I would be doing YouTube. Like, if you asked me that a few years back, I would never have said the reason I did a master's degree and went to go work for these companies is to become a YouTuber. That was definitely not the
Mm.
case. Like, I wanted to get good in my field. But then when I started doing YouTube, I started applying and being able to talk about all this information. I would say now my primary role is to be able to learn certain aspects and then like apply my skill sets and then be able to present that in a way that's more readily available for other people.
Yeah, I've seen you have a lot of different videos in the sense that like a lot are on self-improvement, I would say, and others on how to learn, obviously, which is linked to the first one I said, but lots are on learning, but also on data science. I wonder if from what we've seen on YouTube and from like all the bigger YouTubers or the people that teach to start a new venture, they always say to focus on a niche. And I wonder if, are you also aiming for a specific niche, as in the self improvement niche, or are you just sharing what you like to share? Because they, as I said, like it goes from AI to leveraging ChatGPT to some other things that are not at all related to both. So I wonder, are you just sharing videos that you enjoy doing, and that's it, or are you aiming for a specific audience and to reach more people?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that advice, like starting off a niche, is definitely really, really important because I started off like niching very heavily into data science specifically. As time went on, though, I started talking about other topics that were interesting to me, and they also related. There actually is an overarching theme between all of them as well, which may not be like super obvious just looking at the videos themselves, because my whole kind of thing is learning new things, like being able to learn quickly and then being able to apply these skills in a way that improves your life. Just in my specific case, usually the things that I'm trying to improve and that I'm learning is usually on the technical side as opposed to other things
Mm.
that I'm learning. Um, so yeah, and in terms of like productivity based projects that I do as well, all of that kind of ties into this sense of helping people find a career and then finding a role that they truly enjoy in order to craft the life that they want to have. So I would say that's the role that I put myself in. And it's definitely not as like specific as say like I make data science content tutorials, right?
Mm.
Definitely not like that. But I like to think about it more in terms of um, like holistically helping people improve their lives in order to create a career that they want with a technical tilt.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you've actually created as well Lonely Octopus. And I wanted to dive into the education side a bit in this interview. And first, to talk about the formal education. I personally have some thoughts on it, and I recently left a PhD to do online to create online education. So I guess that illustrates my thoughts. But I would love to know your opinion on the current graduate studies and formal education, like going through university. Is a master's still relevant? Should you do a PhD? What are your thoughts on education, especially if we talk about the AI or data science space?
So, in regards to higher education, I would say it depends a lot on the person. So, for if you're someone who is a self starter who prefers self learning, the ability to do that is so much higher now. There's so many ways, especially customized learning methods with using AI, even like ChatGPT. It offers you a lot of opportunity to learn things by yourself. With that being said, though, I wouldn't discredit having going for a degree program. Like for example, if I was 17 years old and then I wanted to be an engineer, or a data scientist, or an AI engineer, I would not have the discipline. It's not that there's not enough information available to me. I just wouldn't have the discipline in order
Mm.
to actually learn this stuff and then get myself to the point of getting a job. So I would still go for a degree. I think if you're going for like a master's degree or a PhD degree, then you really got to think like, is it because I want to just learn more things? If that's the case, you generally don't need to go get another degree. But say if you're aiming for an academic role, if you want to go be a professor, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't like not have a degree and go be a professor, generally speaking. So yeah, those would be things that I think is important to keep in mind.
So to you, it would mainly be to have like a guidance or some specific task to achieve, and in order to learn and to keep learning. But do you think the paper or the like diploma at the end is also something that will keep having value in the near future, or is online learning something that will be just, or like self-learning something that is or will be just as equivalent as having like a formal degree with a paper at the end?
It's not as useful as it used to be for sure. Like before, you're like, I have a PhD or I have a master's degree. People are like, wow, you know. But nowadays, it's like, oh, like a lot of people can have it. So you can like even look at the software engineering industry specifically. There's a lot of people working at really great companies who don't even have a degree at all.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say the value of it is not as important. And just because you have a degree doesn't mean you're going to be guaranteed to actually get a job either anymore. Um, yeah, so it used to be like if you have a degree, then you're automatically in a really good position in terms of like where it is that you can go for work. I really don't think that's the case anymore. And on top of that, I think a lot of people are pursuing more like freelance careers. I think that's like what's popular these days, with people going like, hey, like, why do I need to work at a job and have to go to the office when I could work remotely from anywhere in the world, and I can work different freelancing jobs and be traveling at the same time. So in that case, it definitely does not depend on your degree. Nobody's going to hire a freelancer because they have a cool degree.
Mm.
It's very, very much going to be based upon your skill level, and all the other things that you have done and your self marketing.
If a person wants to get into the space like data science or just artificial intelligence in general, how would you recommend them to start by themselves online and to finally land some kind of freelance work? Like, what skills should one go look for? And you mentioned ChatGPT. Should they just ask ChatGPT and go only use that, or should they go on some platforms like your own with Lonely Octopus, or start on I saw you mention that you like deep learning.ai and their courses. How would you recommend them to start? For example, now we are seeing a lot of people that don't know anything about programming that want to get into AI because of language models and just the power it has for analytics and other stuff. So for someone with no background at all, what would you suggest them to do and to start with?
I'm going to have like a really dumb, unsophisticated answer to this. Just choose something. Like, choose anything, right? Go do a certificate program on Coursera. If you can sit through that, if you're like, I have a short attention span, go do a short course on it. I think people put too much emphasis on which course to choose or which
Mm,
program to take. Look at a course, you like the instructor, it has good reviews, and you feel like you vibe with it, then just choose it. Like, a lot of these introductory courses in particular, they talk about the same thing, really. It's just
yeah.
presented in a different type of way. And some ways stick with some people, and some ways stick with other people. My general recommendation is choose a course that you like the instructor of, it has good reviews about somebody that you trust, like somebody that you're like, okay, this person is trustworthy to me for whatever reason it is. Something that's very hands-on is the best, because if it's something that you already work on hands-on, you would have portfolio projects already. Like, that's for me, like the reason why I made Lonely Octopus is not because I think I can make a better course than like the experts out there, right? I would never claim that. So I actually aggregate a lot of their courses, and I put them in such a way that you're learning these courses specifically in order to land a freelance project. So I actually match you with a company, because in my head, you can learn so many courses, but that's not going to matter if you don't actually use it. So everything that you learn, you will use at that company, and at the end of the program, you will have a actual freelance project on your resume, which I think speaks more than doing 500 courses even.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like how I see things. Like, if that's something that you vibe with, definitely check out Lonely Octopus. I take the best courses. I also create some of my own, but really the highlight is for you to actually get that freelance project, the real freelance project from the real company. If you want to do a certificate program and you're like, I really like Google's certificate program, it has a capstone project, great. Choose that as well. Generally speaking, if you don't know which next course it is for you to take, it probably means that you should be doing a project.
But I think it can be also very intimidating to start when you don't know anything about even just a Python environment or what thing to open. So I guess a course, like a very basic course, as you said, something not even on AI, but on Python, or just basics of programming could be super helpful. And then I would also actually start right on projects. On my end, I learned coding during a summer in the during my college. I don't remember when, but I learned coding by programming like a dumb game on mobile, just because I wanted to try to make some money and to create and to apply an idea that I had, and it just taught me a lot about Java and
Mhm.
other programming. So it's definitely better, and it's also super motivating. So you just work and learn a lot more. But I had another question about online learning. We are seeing lots of certifications like Google certified or Intel or whatever, do you think those are relevant for companies or for people that try to hire someone? Should the students be looking for certifications or just look for interesting projects that you can show and build on your own? Like are these certifications, do they have any values?
Yeah, so I actually know the answer to this because I talked to a technical recruiter about this before. So, what she told me is that if you absolutely have no background at all, like say you're fresh out of high school, you only have a high school diploma, and you want to work at a tech company or something like that, um, and try to get a job there, right? As like an AI engineer, data scientist, or something like that, um, then it would be worth having at least just having one certificate because it shows that you at least did something that is
Mm,
relatively like from a course's sense, like you didn't just not do anything. But after that one certificate that you have, having 10 certificates does not add any value to your resume after that. And if you do have a degree, even if it's not related to computer science or engineering or data science, like that, it's not worth having like an additional certificate. I would say if you have anything kind of related, if you have a stats degree, if you have like a science degree, which generally have stats in it or something like that, and you list out some of like the anything related to engineering or statistics or computer science or programming courses as some of the courses that you took. If you have that, you don't need a certificate.
mm.
If you have like a fine arts major, maybe, and you have to taken like 0 of these courses, then maybe get that certificate as well. But after that, not useful. Just work. What they're looking at is the projects that you've already done, your skill level. Can you pass the interview? Um, and then they see like, oh, this person has used these technologies. A lot of times, what these companies are looking for is also not necessarily how many things that you know. It's about your ability to learn new things. Because why do I need to know how many things you know if I could just, everybody can just go to ChatGPT and like ask for stuff now. It's more about do you have the ability of learning new things, of keeping up, of being able to problem solve using the tools that are available. That's what they're looking for.
I guess now pretty much what's important is to use ChatGPT and to better leverage those generative tools that just make you much more efficient and allow you to learn a lot more stuff. So it's really weird how it's just like math, I guess. Like you don't have to remember how to derivate something precise. You can just Google it or use a calculator. And now it's the same thing. Like you don't have to remember how to do a bubble sort or whatever. You can just ask ChatGPT to print it right away. So
Mhm.
it's just very. I'm just excited to see what it will look like. It will basically like people will be looking for interesting people that are willing to learn and do more. But I feel like the skills themselves will become less and less essential or looked into. I don't know if you would agree to that, or if you think that, for example, mastering Python is still super relevant and will stay super relevant, other than compared to mastering those language models or like programming aids.
Yeah, I think I actually really agree with you on that front. I think your ability to know how to implement a bubble sort is becoming increasingly irrelevant. is yeah, like it's becoming very irrelevant at this point. Implementation in general is becoming a lot more irrelevant. They say the future coders are going to be more managers or
Yeah,
editors as opposed to actually people who write code. I think there's even more of an emphasis on problem solving, big picture
mm,
thinking, when you should be using that bubble sort as opposed to not using that bubble sort. Higher level abstractions, I think, is going to be the most crucial thing. What you talked about in terms of technologies, absolutely, you should be using these new technologies. It gives you an edge. Anything that gives you an edge over everything else, that's a good thing. Like you should not
yeah.
be like, this is cheating if I'm using ChatGPT. No, it's not. That's like saying like 20 years ago, you're like, oh, I can't Google stuff because that's cheating. Like, who's not Googling stuff now? Right. So it just means that you're an early adopter. So you have an edge over other people, and you should take advantage of that edge in order to create and do whatever it is that you want to be doing. In the future, mastering Python, I think It's not, I think it's easier to master Python, way easier. Like before, if you're trying to master Python, you're like run into a problem, you don't know what it is, you go look at Stack Overflow for like 2 hours until you find something that helps you, probably. Or it's very hard to know how to improve on something unless you have a mentor telling you like, how do I improve this code? You generally don't know what you don't know. With ChatGPT and like other software out there, it's a lot easier to master these languages. So I still think it is important to like learn these things right now, especially if you're trying to join together like different APIs and stuff together. It's still important. I think it's a lot easier to do so. Moving into the future, I do believe it's going to be um, less and less relevant. Your ability to spit out code is going to be less and less
Yeah.
relevant. It's more about, do you understand how the language works? Like, do you
Mhm.
understand the fundamentals, more the computer science principles, right? Or the software engineering principles that govern writing code. Those will become more important.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it also a bit loops back to school where it can actually stay useful because it teaches you like all the basic stuff and the just to understand the whole system to then be able to know what you need to do next, or at least to know what to ask ChatGPT. But
Yes, that's the thing. Prompt engineering is something that is so crucial. Like that movie, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The analogy I wanted to give is in that movie. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was posed. Somebody posed. They wanted to know the answer to the universe and everything, and then they gave him the answer. The answer was 42,
mm,
and then the actual thing was like, "What's the ultimate question?" So it's like, you can know the ultimate answer, but the whole
yeah,
thing is like you have to be asking the right question to get the right answer. So I think prompt engineering, understanding these like abstractions and stuff, that's going to be what really sets people apart because you're asking the right questions. After you know what the right question is, AI tools will tell you what the right answer is.
yeah, I completely agree. Hey, this is a quick interruption of this episode to remind you to leave a like or a 5-star review depending on where you are listening this episode from. It helps the channel a lot. And speaking of learning, please do share the knowledge with your friends by sending them this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will let you enjoy the rest of this episode. I know that you really like to use ChatGPT for learning and for doing like improving productivity, and you also did a lot of videos on productivity itself and on like self-help. I wonder what would be your recommendation for the people that currently have a full-time job, for example, to pay their bills and etc., but that they don't like, and it is not in programming. Like, do you have any advice for them to switching fields while staying sane mentally?
I think I have something I can say to this because for Lonely Octopus, over 90% of our students are actually they're full time employees. So they're just trying to switch their career, start a freelancing
Mm,
gig, like things like that, without actually quitting their jobs. So the way that we designed that program is. You gotta do your full time job. You can't like not do your full time job. You don't want to be doing a bad job either. So what you do is like you create your study plan and a study schedule that's suitable towards you. I always say it's not about trying to get as much done as possible. It's about consistency. Say you're going to do like 3 hours a week. That's fine. If you can manage to do 3 hours a week, you don't need to do more. You don't need to like, that's okay. And you can even take breaks. And as long as you focus on learning the right things and then applying those things in the correct way, that's all it is that you need to do. Like, I think people have this assumption where they're like, oh my God, I need to learn like 20 hours a week. And then they burn out because, they're like, why can't I learn 20
yeah.
hours a week? Well, maybe because you have a full time job and a child and a family. So you just need to be a lot more realistic about what it is that you're doing. Another big thing for me personally is like I have no self discipline. Like before, if you tell me just to learn something, I'd probably like give up after like a week. So what I always have to do for myself is I need to build in accountability. So I either like announce it socially, like and make sure I have friends. We're in Lonely Octopus. We put people into groups of people, so they're keeping each other accountable. And I try to get a job or like some sort of job that's associated with what I'm learning because I can't just randomly quit,
Yeah.
right? Like, for example, if you're in Lonely Octopus and you have a freelance project with a company, you're kind of like forced to learn these things and implement it because you said that you would do it, and then you're going to have a presentation in like 2 weeks, so you're like, shit, like I better, sorry about that, but you're like, I better like learn everything so
Yeah.
that I'm able to do that. It's a lot more motivating than if you're just trying to learn something yourself, because then you could be like, oh, it's okay, I'll just do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow never comes.
Yeah, on my end, that's actually how I started into AI in general. I got my first class like towards the end of my engineering degree, and then I just really loved it. And I don't know why, but in order to learn more, I decided to create YouTube videos about artificial intelligence and to explain what I was currently learning. So that was like I guess it's funny because what you mentioned is basically to have a deadline and like not a force to work, but something that you have to do. Whereas on my end, it still felt this way, but I didn't have to do anything. It was just like me that wanted to put out a video every week, so I had to learn and I had to create the video, but I didn't have any hard deadline per se or anything obligated to do. And I wonder if you did the same with YouTube, like leveraging this platform to force yourself to do things you wouldn't have done otherwise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even with my live streams, right? I do weekly live streams where I'll be like rating AI courses, something like that, right? How am I supposed to rate an AI course if I didn't take the AI course?
Yeah.
Right? So like that actually forces me to like, okay, I gotta like learn a lot more things. Like I'm sampling different stuff. Or for example, I would be doing like a video, like we're like a live stream on like building an AI tool, right? Well, like I gotta go build the AI tool so I can make a live stream video on it. So those keep me like very, very accountable, because I can't just be like, oh, just kidding. Like I don't know how to do it, right? Or I can't just be like, I'm just gonna leave and not do it because I said I was gonna do it, and there's like thousands of people who are gonna see that video. So to not embarrass myself, I have to make sure that it's actually good. Recommend live streams for sure. If you want to be super accountable, because like if you're live, you really can't fuck up.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, what would you suggest for someone to motivate themselves to have like fine deadlines or like because it's really cool that Lonely Octopus allows you to have a freelance project with an actual company, but if you cannot manage to find that, how would you suggest people to have commitment and what kind of commitments would you suggest them to take?
First, identify what you care about, right? What I care about a lot of the times is I don't want to disappoint people because I'm a people pleaser.
Mm,
So I care about that. Maybe like you don't care about that. You're like, I don't care what you think. Then that's not going to work for you. But like for me, I'm a people pleaser. So if I think about it like, what would make me not like what would make it so that it would be very hard for me to not do something. If I tell a lot of people that I'm going to do something, then I have to do it because I'm going to be too embarrassed if I don't do it. The whole idea with the job as well is like very similar. The accountability is because like the idea of having to confront my boss about not doing it scares me so much that I do it. Maybe you don't care. That won't work for you then. So you gotta think about like what you actually care about and try to implement that. For some people, like what else do people care about? like like social accountability is a really big one. Like there's a lot of cognitive dissonance. So usually like telling people that you love and you care about that you're gonna do something will make
yeah.
you do it because you don't want to break your word, right? To doing something like that. It could be like paying the bills. If you put your I'm not recommending that you quit your job. I just want to put this out there, okay? But like money is a big motivator. Haven't you noticed like say if you I don't know like if you've had this experience maybe as a PhD student, like if you don't have that much money as a student, you're like pretty motivated to make extra income, right?
Mm,
So you're like, okay, like I better learn all these things. So money it can be a good motivator for some people. It's not the best for me, but for some people, the idea like if I do this, I can make like XYZ amount of money, then that's a good motivation to have as well. Yeah, I would say like generally speaking, what works for almost everybody is social accountability because as humans, we are designed to want other people to like us. So that is something that is really, really good to tap into. I was also want to make one more note. Like with Lonely Octopus, yes, we give you like a freelance, like an actual freelance project from different companies, and I think that's really really helpful. It is. I agree. It's more difficult to do that by yourself, but you can kind of like replicate this. Like for example, just go to your I don't know, like your neighbor and go like, "Hey, I'm gonna like build this thing for you," and you told them they're gonna build it, so you can actually also go and build it out for them because generally people like free things, so they're probably not gonna say no to that.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good motivation. On my end, I just wanted to mention because I would assume some others are in this situation, but I think the social aspect doesn't really work for me. Like for example, I started YouTube completely anonymously, and I didn't share it with any friends, any of my family. I was just like shy, and I didn't want to tell anybody that I was doing this in case it flopped completely and didn't work. So it was just I was pushing and grinding, but completely anonymously. And then I started to use my I started using a text to speech and not like nothing from me. Then I started to record with my own voice and then showing my face and etc. But just recently, I don't want to say this on the podcast, but I said to some of my close ones that I wanted to do something that is a bigger project than I usually do, and I feel like it actually puts more pressure, or like it makes it harder for me to work on the project. I don't know why. Just like it's a maybe yes, it's a good extra pressure, but on my end it's maybe too much, or like I prefer to not talk about anything to anyone and just work on it and then be proud of myself and share it once it's done. But yeah, the social aspect doesn't work for me. I really don't know why, but
There's like a bit of a distinction here, right? It's actually very small. If you tell other people that you're going to do something, it actually decreases the likelihood of you doing it because just you telling them makes you think that you already did it and your brain gives you a dopamine rush. So you're less likely to do it. But social accountability is more that you force yourself into a situation where you can't not do it. Like the
yeah,
cost of not doing it is too painful. Like, for example, if I sign up, if I sign up to say I'm going to do this live stream in front of thousands of people, right? I'm probably going to do that live stream because the idea of disappointing thousands of people is going to make me very nervous. If you just tell your friend you're going to do something, then it doesn't really have that kind of thing, right? They're not going to be like, why didn't you do it? Like afterwards.
yeah,
So that's kind of the social accountability. Where, like, say you have a job, that's social accountability as well. Because if you just like decide to not show up one day, or like just not do it, and then you have a meeting with your PI or something, doesn't that make you very worried? Like you're like, oh my gosh, shit, like I have to like do these things because what am I going to say to my PI if I just tell them, oh, I didn't do anything for 2 weeks?
yeah.
So I think it's like it's like a little bit of a subtle difference in terms of like how it is that you do that. I actually did have one question for you, if you don't mind me asking. Like,
No, of
given
course.
the fact that you've like started a PhD in these topics, where do you think is the greatest opportunities in using artificial intelligence, and where do you stand on in terms of what you're doing in order to take advantage of it?
Honestly, it's just so hard to answer. It's just it. I think it will just change all the industries, so it's very difficult to choose one. But on my end, I think education is the space that might be changed the most, especially graduate studies, but even university or college or high school. I think it will be changed a lot. Just having, for example, here in Quebec, we lack teachers, especially good ones, and even for younger people, and so we have like huge classrooms with lots of students that cannot learn properly because they have like one teacher for 70 small children or whatever. And I can't I can just imagine having like a personalized tutor to each of them, or like with an hologram or something like it can just change everything just to have infinite teachers. So it's really cool. But and that's also what I'm trying to focus on now, like with towards AI, we are trying to build courses and other ways of learning than the traditional way. So I guess Yeah, I would assume there are other industries that will be changed even more, but on my end, I think it's very promising, and I think in a positive way for education. Of course, I would assume some jobs will be lost along the way, but in the end, I think it will help teachers more than hurt them. I would assume. Like obviously, there's two sides where the students will leverage things like ChatGPT to cheat or to not learn, and on the other side, teachers and schools can leverage those language models or any other tools to better teach the children. So I don't know. I think in the end, it will be quite a positive gain for the education space. I think that would be my answer. And what is your answer for to that question?
I think there's just so much opportunities available.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, there was a really good talk by Andrew Ng where he was explaining the different layers of AI. He says that there's like the base layer where you're developing like chips, right? The hardware.
yeah,
And then there's people who are developing like fundamental technologies, like different types of large language models and like generative AI models. And there's a layer on top of that that are developing platforms for people. Like for example, like the ChatGPT, who's developing like ChatGPT Store and things like that on the platform level, or there's like companies who would be like labeling data and like things like that, right?
mm,
And then on top of that, I believe, don't quote me if I get this wrong, then you have the application layer. This is when you can apply artificial intelligence to different industries around you. So I think in that layer, there's just so much that can be done. It's like
yeah,
prior to these days, most of that money, like most of the attention is being focused on things like marketing, like
mm,
advertisement, stuff like that, because there's a lot more return on investment. And say like doing small apps for like healthcare or something like that wouldn't be as worth it because the ROI is not good, right? But nowadays, because of generative AI and these different models that are there, it significantly lowers the cost of being able to improve those industries. So the return on investment is actually good enough now. It can be, I think healthcare is going to be a really, really, really big one because traditionally a place where there's like a bunch of data, but the data
yeah,
quality is like kind of not very good. It's like kind of shit. And there's just a lot that can be done in that side. Education, 100% agree on that side as well. I think in terms of like climate change and like these types of things, there can be significant development in those areas as well. Yeah, and personal productivity, just like that's a no brainer as well. In productivity, corporate productivity, personal productivity, being able to live life better, and things like that. I also see that as a place of
yeah.
huge, huge opportunity.
Is there one industry that you personally want to contribute more?
I do see myself like playing like how I like to envision myself at least. Like I told you earlier about the way that I saw my channel, which is I'm trying to help people like take advantage of new technologies, try to help them develop better lives, develop better careers, and to develop better lives, right? Through the avenue of learning new things. So I'm trying to put myself in a position where I'm not an expert in terms of developing these fundamental technologies. I never claimed to do so, but I also do know more than most people who are, say, like just talking about AI, like new AI things that are coming out. So I like to see myself as someone who can help democratize the information that's available. Like, here's some tools that you can be doing. Here's really cool things that other people are doing. Give you some ideas about what you can learn so that you're able to contribute to it or it's a different field as well. Like, maybe I can tell you about the fact that people are making a lot of discoveries, like drug discoveries, and like small molecule drugs, by using AI in a specific way. And if you're someone who's interested in that field and you see that video, you see that piece of content, my hope is that for you to be like, oh, this is interesting, and then look into it and maybe even start working in that field.
Speaking of your YouTube channel, what's the best thing that your venture on YouTube bring you?
What's the best thing that it has brought me? It has forced me to
Yeah,
learn things that I would never have learned before.
yeah, that's a very good answer. Do you have any anecdotes on like did it allow you to find, for example, freelancing work or any other opportunities that you couldn't have landed without this YouTube channel?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I say like if I didn't have this YouTube channel, I would not have like nearly as many opportunities available to me. Like these days, I don't need to go find freelance projects. Like freelance projects come and find me, right?
Yeah,
Because I spent so long building up a platform like this. That's also why I also tell the people I work with from Lonely Octopus, like one of the major things I push them on is you have to start building an audience. So you're not the one trying to get freelance clients anymore. The
yeah.
clients will come directly to you and be begging you to do their thing because they know that you have the ability of doing so. um Being able to also just like being able to meet so many people like you, like how would I have known you
Yeah.
if I did not have a YouTube channel? And like our mutual friend Ken, like I didn't know him until we started doing YouTube as well. And all of these connections, all the opportunities that I get to like be able to speak to people, all of this comes from YouTube. Like who would want to listen to Tina talk if like if I didn't have a voice already?
How would you suggest people to build an audience? Like that's, I assume, something very difficult. For example, in our space, like data science, AI, it's becoming super saturated, like with lots of people just sharing news or ChatGPT related things. So how would you suggest someone starting in the field to build an audience and try to find contracts and opportunities like that? Would you suggest them to do whatever they want or to create a YouTube channel, a newsletter? Like, is there something you think is either easiest or like more fitting?
Yeah, I think so. Think about it from I like to say if you're being going to be serious about social media, kind of have to know the reason for it. Like if you're someone who wants to use it in order to get contracting and like freelancing jobs, that's one type of method. The other method would be like someone like me who's trying to build an audience because I want to create content. Like
Yeah,
content, I want content to be my business. So on the freelancing side, if that's what you want to do, show your work, like whatever you're working on, all these things, the technologies that you're using. LinkedIn is probably the easiest to do that. Just snippets of your work, like, oh, I use this technology to build this, put a screen cap of it, put like a screenshot of it. That's it. And then other people who are looking for people to work in that technology might just search the hashtag and then find you and be like, oh, this person can work on this technology for me because they already did a project before. Using like writing articles, like towards data science, like towards AI, like these uh, is probably like medium articles is probably like the next easiest step to
yeah,
do something like that. If you're into that. On the content side, writing like Substack or like Beehive, I think is if you're into writing, that would be a good start as well as LinkedIn. If I were to start over again, knowing the fact that I'm a content based business, although I do freelancing stuff, I'm mostly like a content based business. Um, I would start with YouTube Shorts because I would cross post that onto TikTok, YouTube, and
yeah.
Instagram Reels. When I first started, there were no shorts, like that was not a thing. But if I were to start today, that's definitely where I would be doing. That area is not that saturated, especially on good educational content that's entertaining. Is
Yeah.
actually not saturated at all.
But would you say that the conversion into a real audience is not necessarily that good with short content? Like, for example, a larger TikTok audience or Instagram doesn't necessarily convert as well as a good YouTube audience. So I don't know if you've seen that or if you have any thoughts about that.
No, I don't think that's the case at all. I really
No?
don't think that's the case at all. And it's not like you start off with shorts and you have to like do shorts forever.
Yeah.
Really successful shorts creators always convert to long form creating as well. And then really successful long form creators also start doing shorts. That's what I'm trying to do. Like
Yeah.
I'm not that successful on YouTube, long form in itself, but I'm trying to improve that and also trying to like try my best to expand into like shorts as well. So it's
Yeah.
not like you do one thing and you stick with it. I think you just pick whatever is gives you the best return on investment.
Yeah.
And then think about the conversion a little bit later. Actually be good first and then think about conversion.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's also much more accessible than trying to make like a whatever 20-minute long explanation on something. Like you can just do a 40-second, very good and concise explanation, which is actually quite hard to do, but still seems more accessible at first. But yeah, I've also tried. I'm now trying into shorts, but mostly podcast shorts. But otherwise, like real shorts where I try to explain something in less than a minute, it's so complicated. It's like so hard to have a good catch and storyline and try to explain, like try to be pertinent and useful within a minute is quite hard, I feel like.
I would agree. I definitely have not figured out the shorts game. But with that being said, AI technology is fundamentally transforming a content game because being able to produce content using AI, if you're not using AI, that's like not good. You should definitely be using that. Like for
Yeah.
me, I'm actually experimenting with using like script writing, like being able to analyze videos and see what does one doesn't do well. I think another part that it's like 100% being used now and it's going to be even rising later is have like I'm sure you've used like HeyGen and like things like that, right? For like avatars. They're
Mm.
really good. Like really good. And if it's only a 1 minute video, people aren't going to notice that it's avatar. So I think a lot of the videos that we're watching are either being created using avatars now, or they definitely will be increasingly being used by being created by avatars.
Before we end this, I just wanted to come back a bit on freelancing. I have a few quick questions. First, are you still doing freelancing even with all the YouTube content that we want to push and Lonely Octopus? Are you still taking on contracts and working for other companies?
Yep, I am. I am. I started when I first started. Like I quit my job and did YouTube. I definitely did more of that because I'm like
Mm,
freaking out that I can't make enough money. Nowadays, I still do because I enjoy that part of my work. I think I'm someone that I get bored if I just do one thing
yeah,
continuously. So being able to switch between like technical things and I guess like YouTube is kind of technical, but more like, talking about stuff and like storyline based stuff. Like it's very nice to be able to switch. I think that's kind of also the beauty of freelancing, right? You get to choose how much work it is that you want to do and what type of work it is what you want to do.
yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And so my next, you almost answered the next question, but how would you differentiate, for example, freelancing versus working at a big company versus entrepreneurship or building a startup? Like who should go for which?
I would say working for a large company. Actually, Ken was the one that gave a really good. So credits to Ken for giving this analogy. It's consistent but not safe. What that means, it's stable but not safe in the sense that you always get the same paycheck every single month. But
Mm,
then if they fire you, you're like gone, right? It's not safe. You get the idea of feeling like you're safe because you always get the same paycheck every month. But generally speaking, you don't even know when you're going to suddenly get fired and then have the rug pulled under your feet. Unfortunately, doing like layoffs in tech times, which is very common these days, the past like year or so, a couple of years, that has happened to a lot of people. Like completely, they just don't realize
yeah,
that, whoa, like suddenly I'm out of a job, right? Like, what am I supposed to do now? In terms of like freelancing, I see it as I'll like, kind of explain what I think is like suitable for different types of people from my opinion because I've actually done all three at this point. I'll say freelancing is more like you are it's not consistent, like it's not stable, but it's actually safer because it's not stable because you have to go find these jobs and the amount of money that you're getting each month can vary month on month.
mm,
But you're also diversified because if one thing doesn't work out, you have like four other projects, right? That can cover
yeah,
that one thing, and you can much more easily see where the market is heading. Like if you were a freelancer and you were working like a year and a half ago, you would have saw that the money was drying up. And you would have taken your precautions at that time in order to defend against that. As opposed to if you were working at a big company, you might not have known that until you got fired. Yeah. So on the entrepreneurship side, I see it more as like it's more of like a kind of like more intense environment is how I would say it. Like if freelancing is building a business, entrepreneurs is kind of like building a startup. So it's more about whether you take like a lot of people take venture capital money, but you're trying to like build things like you're throwing in money and then churning out like something, a product and trying to grow that. You're thinking about revenue, but more so you're thinking about growth. So very, very different type of environments and different things suit different people. Say if you're someone who likes to just like go to work and then do that and then not think about anything else and come home, I would say full-time job. Try to diversify it though, at least. Like maybe do some freelancing, have some clients like on retainer, or at least like diversify your the amount of money you're making, invest that properly. If you're someone who likes working, who has some initiative and doing that, and you like having a lot of control over your time, I think freelancing is a really good option. You can have like a team of people in freelancing as well. It doesn't have to be just you, but it's not like a lot of people that you're trying to manage. You're still doing a lot of the work, the technical work. And then if you're someone who is someone who's like very you love having a team, you like having like a fast-paced environment, and you really like being able to grow something really fast. Like if you're like a super intense person, I would say, then entrepreneurship is something that kind of I think would be like really suitable. Again, this is like kind of like a more simplified definition, but that's kind of how I've experienced it. Like going all the way from being a full time employee to a freelancer and then taking venture capital money. That's kind of the difference that I saw.
Yeah. And my second to last question would be, what are the skills that you would suggest people to learn more specifically, like which programming language or software or whatever to learn for freelancing in the AI space?
Python for sure if you're going to do that. And if you're like the biggest I feel like people have this misconception when they think like AI engineer or something like that. It's actually just a rebranded software engineer. It's just that you
Mm,
happen to use AI APIs and like AI things as opposed to other things. So, but oftentimes just like knowing how to use these new tools and like the new stacks that are there, um, that's going to get you really far because there's just not that many people who are taking that initiative to do that. I think, yeah, that would be your traditional like stack of like using like React and stuff and things like that. It's like literally the same as software engineering. You're just connecting it to like a different type of backend where you're connecting it to different types of APIs.
mm,
But that being said, though, I think skill side level, I would almost say that's like 50%, if not even less than that, because as a freelancer, your actual role is not just to know things, you have to let other people know that you know things, whereas they're not going to hire you.
yeah.
So obviously like don't like pretend to know things. You should definitely still know some things. But I think investing heavily into your own brand is going to be setting like you apart the most. Like a lot of the best freelancers, they're not the best engineers, like not nearly the best engineers. And on top of that, a lot of the work over time, it's not even done by them anymore. They're more of like a managerial role where they're hiring other people and working
Yeah.
with other people to build out parts of the work that they take on, right? But what they're really, really, really good at is marketing themselves. It's like as a trustworthy brand, as someone who would deliver on the product. So that is where I actually think you should spend even more time on.
Yeah, and just I would assume communication skills as well. Like later on, I, I've never done freelancing, so I couldn't say, but I would assume that you have meetings with somewhat important people, or at least the people that will decide if they hire you and rehire you.
Mhm.
So I would say that communication, explaining things that you do, and keeping them up to date and etc. is super important. Documentation, like everything related to communication, is something that is even more important than in a regular job, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because you're constantly what you're trying to make them realize, like what you're trying to reassure them on, is what you're paying me is worth it.
Yeah.
I'm bringing you value. You don't want them to go like, "What's this person doing? Are they just doing nothing?" Right? Like you have to be like, say like, "Hey, here's my weekly update. Like, here's what's happening right now." That makes the person paying you feel like, "Oh, like this person's actually doing stuff."
Yeah.
um like there's a lot of like psychology that goes into it. Your job a lot of times is to try to make your person feel comfortable and heard, and you want them to not feel like they're stupid. Like if you just throw technical jargon at them, they're going to feel like they feel stupid, and then they're not going to want to
Yeah.
work with you anymore.
I don't know if you know Luis Serrano. He is active on YouTube as well, and like he works at Cohere now, building education things, LLM University and other things. But he also mentioned that it never hurts to be simpler. Like it, nobody will tell you that you sound dumb because you are talking with two simple words. Like it's just better, and it's easier for everybody. It's more clear. It's better communication. Everybody understands, and you know what to do next. It's just clearer.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think communication is super important. And yeah, I would love to know what's next for you and for Lonely Octopus. Anything, any projects or upcoming things you'd like to share to the people listening?
Yeah. I guess we're doing our YouTube. We're expanding that. Lonely Octopus. If you're interested, maybe we can like put a link somewhere
Yeah.
for that as well. So we will be taking applications shortly, and we'll be opening up our next cohort in the next month or so. And on top of that, so I am also working. I mean, I always have like different side projects and things like that that I'm working on. But I would say like those are my kind of like two. Those are definitely my like two major things that I'm working on right now. But usually, I do have a newsletter. So on YouTube, I generally stick to like specific topics. But on my newsletter, I talk about other things that I'm working on as well that may not be specifically related
Hmm.
to AI data or like tech stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking this almost 2 hours of time to speak with me and to teach us a lot about education and freelancing and all other topics that I really enjoy. So it was really fun. Thanks again. It was amazing to talk with you.
Thank you. It was a really fun conversation.